What's it like working with the small indies compared to the big Hollywood hoopla? What do you prefer, first of all?
I love, I mean, most of my experience has been, like a lot of other young actors or younger actors, you very often you get more experience in independent film at first. I've also done some, studio movies and some larger budget things, and I like that too. I love sets. I love the whole process. It's really exciting, and it's really just a wonderful, wonderful, creative medium and industry. When you're working and when things come together. It can be very difficult along the way, as everybody knows who's ever even put a foot into this business. But when it all comes together and when you're really feeling good about the work that you're doing, and you have those opportunities, it's really a godsend. You feel very grateful, and you're like, this is why I do this. This is why I keep hammering away at it. And I mean, I think that you can take a lot of risks in independent film that you may not be able to on a larger kind of setup, where there's a lot more people looking at the work and checking it, and that's something that I love about it. Do you feel the
Well,
same
yeah,
way?
I've done a lot of studio movies and a lot of indies as well,
And a lot of TV.
and a lot of TV. I've done 6 television series. I've done a number of specials and
Any
minis.
preference?
Well, TV moves too fast for my taste. But sometimes you can do something in terms of material that you can't do in a movie because they won't do it in a movie. Where television will attack certain subjects which are more dear to the average person's heart, and I'm one average person. So it's like the indies can do that too. The nice thing about indies is you're doing material that is not Spider-Man. We can't do Spider-Man. I mean, I've done very big movies, as you know, but the problem with that is it's like working in a big factory.
It's a bit of a
And
machine, kind
it's
of.
a bit of a machine, and a person like me who likes to really contribute and likes to be part of the actual decisions gets much more play, as Michael alluded to before, in an indie. You have, first of all, they're seeking my experience. In my case, they're seeking my experience naturally. They're happy to hear what I have to say. In a big movie, the director has to assume the position of monarch, and he can't be tampered with. So, and you know that going in, so you just kind of, you do the best you can and hope that it works.
It's the way it has to be.
It has to be. There's really no other way because there's so many people and so much going on and so much at stake.
Got to keep the gears.
Yeah. And in an
Strung
indie,
together.
you're very often part of the planning.
Yeah.
We're planning another movie to be part of, and we're already discussing with the director, having talks about other casting and how this should go, how the ending should go, how the rewrite should go. Well, you really, unless you are Tom Hanks working with Scorsese or something where you have a chance to do that, well, that's fine. It's like that here. I mean, I have a number of directors I've worked with who want to do that, but in the big world, in the big leagues, you can call it, they don't have time, and I don't. Here you can make time because the schedule is short, first of all, usually on a 3 to 4 week schedule. So you're shooting fast, but by the same token, you have more freedom. You can improvise more, which is really great. Not everybody is Martin Scorsese, where you improvise 40, 50% of what you do. He encourages that, and then he shoots it. Well, that's a treat beyond treat of all treats. When you get a chance to put it in your own words and to put it from your own heart, and then they film it and he puts it together, that's why he's such a genius and he knows how to do that. Most people don't have that kind of ability, and so they have to stick more to the script. There is not an actor in the world who has ever been able to read something the night before and make it sound exactly as it just came out for the first time. You'll get a good simulacrum of that, but you won't really be able to actually do it, and no one has ever done it, not even Brando. You can see, with the exception of some of his earliest work, which he was collaborating with Kazan. There's a collaboration there. They were in the studio together. So that kind of thing, in a sense, Kazan made almost indie movies because he was so much not a part, and yet because of his genius became a part of the big machine. But his smaller movies were his greatest movies.
That's a good chunk of advice right there, isn't it? Isn't it,
Absolutely.
Michael?
Sure. Oh yeah. I soak up a lot, just in hearing my dad talk about the history of the business and his history, and things he learned when he was doing a certain part or on a certain set, and I've tried to then use all that in my roles and experience and positions on films. I produce and I write as well, and done a tiny bit of directing myself. so it's-
Terrific writer, as well as a terrific actor.
Thank you.
Well, that's where it is. Spencer Tracy was right, I think, when he said, as advice to young actors, don't ever let them catch you at it. Don't let them see you acting.
Yeah,
Right.
but once again, the trick to that is the paraphrase or the improvisation. If you have to do to be or not to be, right? You can spend now until the end of time doing to be or not to be or not to be or not to be or not. You can go insane. But if you say it either is or it isn't, to be or not to be, then I can make it sound like it's just coming out because I find the behavior from my own verbiage, from my own impulses. It's either this or it's that, to be or not to be. So now, it may not be wonderful Shakespeare, but it is real. And so you have to start with that at least. And so that's how independent movies are helpful, because you've got to get it on. And if everybody has to stick exactly to the script, probably not going to happen. There's not enough time. And so it encourages improvisation.
And that moment occurs, if I understand you right, that moment occurs not the night before while you're studying the script, but in front of the camera.
Well, if
Action.
you study your script, you should not study it by sounding out the words. You should study it in terms of the actions. He knows this.
What you're doing.
What you're doing. Well, the point is, Stanislavski, the great master of actors, and the one we are all descendants of at the Moscow Art Theater, he wrote 2 books, Building a Character, An Actor Prepares. I learned nothing from them. He wrote a book in his 70s called An Actor Prepares. Not an actor, excuse me. It was called My Life in Art.
My Life in Art, yeah.
So My Life in Art, he says, after a lifetime of experimentation, I have come to the understanding that acting is the simple accomplishment of tasks. Sanford Meisner, the great acting teacher from the group theater and my teacher, said acting is doing. Paul Sorvino humbly says acting is verbs. It's things you do. It's not things you be. You either threaten, you charm, you cajole, you pray. They're all things that you can do. Once you put acting into that matrix, everything becomes much easier. Because you don't have to sound like anything. You're doing something. You could do it without words. What am I doing? What am I doing?
Scorning me.
Yeah, what am I doing?
Pleading.
It's real easy, isn't it? If I put words
you.
to that, it will make it even clearer. Please, I've got to have you do. Or listen, I'm not going to tell you again. So the point being that once you lay the words on top of the vehicle of behavior that you have created, you've solved the problem.
Is that your philosophy too, Michael?
Yeah. We studied the same method. I went to Rutgers, Mason Gross School of the Arts to study the Meisner Method, and who took Sanford Meisner, who actually my mother and father met in his and Bill Esper's acting classes back in the 60s. But he took a lot of his theory and technique and built it upon Stanislavski's principles. So it's the same kind of a thing, really, and it makes it much easier, because if you're really doing something, there's no room for artificiality. There's no room to get nervous. And then another one that I love is keep your attention on the other fellow, on your partner, and he'll never fail you. Isn't that the way it goes?
Well, the point is, how can you be nervous if he and I are in a scene, right? If I say, now listen, that's old style acting, right?
Yeah.
But if I have to let's say my task is to get his attention, I don't think you were listening to me. Now, you understand? So what happens there is I'm doing something, and I'm like, what are you nodding about? What are you nodding about?
I'm getting ready to say
Whatever you want to say.
what I thought was.
You see how that becomes absolutely organic? I'm taking it off him, and he's saying, like, what are you talking to me that way?
Exactly.
You understand? So that dynamic affects me, it affects him. That is really the sum and substance of what real behavior is in life, and when it's done well, that's what's on film or on stage.